Hello, everyone, and welcome to the audio commentary for The A.S.S. My name is Chris Cortez. I am the writer, director. Oh, God, I mean, in the credits, you'll see all the things I did. I did a lot in this movie, as I usually do, because that's how robot entertainment works. It's a one man show, and we gotta, you know, do what we can for the most part. um, so silly. Welcome, guys. So we're going to talk about the ass. And I am. This movie, it's a very odd movie. Um, by odd, I mean how it came about. Usually, I get ideas for movies by coming up with an idea. Uh, you know, um, French assassin. I'm like, wouldn't it be cool if there's a French assassin? He had to come over and he would assassinate people, but he was really this nice guy and blah blah blah. And then we made that into a movie. The ass started off. I just came up with the acronym. I went up to my wife one day, and I was like, wouldn't it be hilarious if there was like a group of people called the ass? And she's like, what? And I'm like, yeah, the Assassin Secret Society. And she thought that was so funny. She's like, you need to make a movie that the title is The Ass. That's awesome. If I saw a movie called The Ass, I'd watch it. And I was like, that's because I love you. Um, or that's why I love you, rather. So from there, I started trying to figure out, well, what would The Ass be about? Like, what movie is this? And slowly it became. I was like, I think this is the group that the French assassin belongs to. Because all these movies that I make, they're set in the same universe, and I just thought that would be really fun to just show, like, who does this guy work with, or work for, or whatever. um so I always would tell people when I was writing the script, I would tell them it's like a sort of sequel to the French Assassin, but not really. Like, he's in it, but he's not the main character. And it doesn't really follow his exploits like the original movie did. But that's, I think, a pretty decent description of it, I guess, when it was in its infancy. Um, as the movie evolved, I just started inventing characters that I thought would be really funny. And that brings us to what you see here on the screen. So here we see me, the American cheeseburger, talking and trying to act, as I usually do in all my movies. Cheeseburger was one of the first characters I invented for the ass, other than the French assassin. Like, I knew he was going to be in it, but the newest character I invented was Cheeseburger. He's a pretty fun guy. I guess on paper. I keep coming up with more of his backstory even after we filmed. I don't know if it'll ever appear in any movie, but it's just something that I keep thinking about. Because I really think he's such a strange character. This is my lovely sister. And I, she did such a good job. I remember I told her, "Hey, do you want to be in this movie called The Ass?" And she's like, "Sure." And I told her, "That's awesome. Can you do a Russian accent?" And she's like, "Yeah, I think so." And I'm like, "That's awesome because your character is a Russian assassin." And she did such a good job. Like, I showed up at her house to film her parts. Originally, I was gonna do a green screen effect, and have her come over my place to shoot it. But pretty, like, because she had moved, her and her husband had moved, and I saw their computer setup, and I said, you know what, that's more or less what I wanted. For your background, I think we should just do that. Can I film it at your house? And she's like, absolutely. Um, And there's Henry, her husband, my brother-in-law, playing um, the sidekick to her, Tool, which Tool came about much later. Originally, she was by herself in the early drafts, and I'm like, she needs someone to talk to. That needs to be like her thing. There's French Assassin, her thing throughout the whole movie, and so I invented him, and I just think it breathed new life into what she does. Honestly, I can't think of this movie without her talking to Tool. So there's Young Man. I play him as well. Young Man appears throughout the whole movie, doing these things. All the characters have like a moment or moments throughout the script, and for Young Man, I just thought it would be really cool to have him kill all these people who are played by me. Um, in different time zones, or different time eras, not time zones. And so I wanted Young Man. He says the same thing and passes out. So really, it's just like the joke that he gets is what is his prey saying every time they die, or what's going on. And my wife was playing young man, um, and it came out really good. And originally, Young Man was just called Young, like Young. And I thought this is kind of stupid because we have Old Boy. So I changed it to be like, well, his name is Young. Like maybe his last name, like he's, John Young or something. And that's his last name. And I think it worked out. It's kind of like a pun. So coming up here is Old Boy, played by my son. Old Boy, I promised my son, we made a movie once, and he said, I love doing this, Dad. Put me in every movie you ever make. And I said, absolutely, I'll totally do that. So when I was thinking, well, what role would he play here? I needed six assassins. So I said, you know what? I think he's going to play an assassin that's a little kid, who's like 8 years old or something and has one kill for every year he was born. Which, doesn't really make sense, but fuck it, it's hilarious. And here's my wife playing Old Boy's mom, her other role in the film. She has three roles in the film. This is her second one. And she aced all three of them, in my opinion. I think she was lovely, especially here. Um, and yeah, my son was like, "Cool, I'll do it." His only thing was at the end of the movie, he says "crap" on a stick, and he said, "I can't say crap. That's a bad word, Daddy." And I said, "Crap is a bad word?" And he goes, "Yes." And I said, "Well, can you say poop on a stick?" And he's like, "Yeah, I could do that." So that was his only request, to do. So going back here to American Cheeseburger, this was the first. I have a thing I do where with each movie I make, I always try to do everything involving me first, so then I can get it out of the way, and then I can focus on the other actors and directing and doing what I do. So here, I shooting Cheeseburger. That was the first day, and I really had no idea what I'm doing. Looking now, it works, but I'm sure I could have probably done it better. But I tried. Um, Clark, I haven't talked about Clark. Clark is like essentially the main character of this movie. Clark he was a character we used in a lot of older movies, and I kind of just forgot about him. Like we used him in my first four movies, or I'm sorry, he was in my third film. We introduced him. It was called The Essence of Other Things, and then we did a fourth movie, and he came back for that in a cameo, an extended cameo, and and then I used him again. I did a remake or a reimagining of my first couple of films, and he was in those. And that was really it. He had a few appearances and other stuff, but essentially, when that movie series was done, I stopped using him. And I have no idea why. I just, for whatever reason, I was just like, oh, well, So, for one of the anniversary movies, for the anniversary of 20 years of me being a filmmaker, I was going through some of my older movies, and I'm like, Clark is pretty goddamn funny. Why not use him as one of the assassins? Because of all the assassins, I wasn't sure if Brian would be down with that because he hadn't played this character since like 2008. But he was absolutely down. He was like, Clark, sure, that's hilarious. He wouldn't be an assassin at all. I had to buy a wig because Brian, his hair is extremely short. He kind of he's pseudo bald, as I call it. Um, and so Clark had always had like swirly hair. So I got this wig, and it was so funny. I wasn't sure if the swirly would work, and all I did was get some water, like Brian used to do, and go vloop, and it worked. So here, there's a gag here with the Pizza Hut. There's my wife. So here he's delivering pizza, and he's wearing a pizza hat, and then here he's trying to speak about the Bible, and he's wearing a Bible hat. This was not in the script. I had written the script already, and Becca was like, "Wouldn't it be funny if he has like a hat on for each role that he's doing?" And I'm like, "That is funny. I don't really do that kind of visual humor. I would love to do that." So I bought the hats, and it's not in the script. And Brian just, wore the hats as we were doing it. That tackle, by the way, was so funny because Brian's like, I'm like, how do we do this? And Brian's like, oh, I know how to do it. You do this. And he explained to me what you do so that no one gets hurt. He goes, you make it look like you're tackling, but really you're just falling. You're like kind of ducking. And I said, okay. And then we shot it, and it was like a one take wonder. Like, we blocked it, and I'm like, okay, this is how it's going to be. And then it just went, and it was really funny. I thought the two of them aced it. It was so great. Um, so here we use film grain for the second flashback because we wanted, this is the 80s. So basically, the further back we go, I wanted the footage to look worse. And let me tell you, that film grain looks excellent. That was added in post, of course. And that's a reference to when Bender raises his fist in Breakfast Club. That was one of my wife's favorite movies when she was younger. So here, by the way, I got to talk about these Brady Bunch shots. These I call them the Brady Bunch shots because it's six characters, and they're all sitting together, and it kind of just reminds me of the Brady Bunch. They were the bane of my existence. I hated editing them because it was just so technical and so cumbersome, and it was just for like a few seconds of footage. Not a big fan, but we did that, or I did that rather, several times. There's like 15 or 20 or something like that Brady Bunch shots. So here, this is when the French Assassin's character kind of takes over the movie a little bit, and this was my idea to have like go look into his past. What did he look like? And he has this awesome long flowing hair. He's going on this mission with his partner, and it there's Brian's fart, which I think is so funny. And it was really just awesome to take a look back. If I ever, I would like to revisit this in the future and show more of the French Assassin and what his youth was like. How did he end up looking like that? That'd be kind of fun. But that was his moment. All these characters have moments in the movie, and that was my moment of having him, showing a bit of his past and how he daydreams and whatnot. Also, I had to point this out now that Brian's doing this monologue here. So a few things. First of all, the book he's reading, in case you don't notice, is Planet of the Apes, and it's actually the original French version. Which, when we wrapped up the film, I gave that to Brian as a wrap up gift because he loves collecting books, and it's a French edition of Planet of the Apes, which was a French novel that later was translated into English. Anytime we do anything with French Assassin, I always try to he's so proud of being French. So in the background, Daft Punk is playing, which is a French group, of course, and that it's little Easter eggs like that, which in the French Assassin movie we did as well. If you notice his love of Jean Reno and a bunch of other things we did in that movie. This that speech, by the way, Brian like was like, I don't know, like it was such a big thing for him because he's like, usually you give me one line of dialogue to say as the French assassin, I say it and we move on. But this is, this is huge, man. What the fuck am I gonna do? And he was explaining to me that what he would, because I had forgotten what he did for the French assassin, and he was like, dude, what I would do is I would just say the line. Like I would look up phonetically, how do you say this, and then I would just say it. And this is a huge line. I'm not going to remember all this. And so he kept going over it. That was a one take wonder. He did that in one take. And I said, that was hilarious. I think I'm good, but for safety, do you want to do a second take? And Brian said, dude, if I do a second take, it's going to be the exact same take I just did. So I think we're good. And I said, right on, man. And, we went on, and that was the end of it. Here, of course, the last young man thing. That's an actual recreation of a 1978 Kenner Star Wars toy. That was so important to me that it be that. Um, and I think that's like the worst wig of the whole movie. It's so funny. And then this joke, staying alive, it's kind of on the nose, but I hope people really appreciate it. I thought it was hilarious that you murder someone and staying alive would play in the background. So all right, we're sort of wrapping up the movie here. So here, the Anna L. Sue name, which I didn't really talk about this, so I should probably talk about this really quick before we wrap. Anna L. Sue was I was trying to my mom's name is Anna, and I was trying to like, I think we let her borrow our account for like HBO Max or something, and I put Anna, and then I put like I made it look like it was anal or something as a joke, and we all thought it was funny. So when it came time for this movie, I said I have to do that. I have to, have the name there. The A.S.S, Friends of the A.S S. I thought that was a really cool way to credit the characters in the movie. Okay, so this sequence was originally going to play in a tiny corner during the credits, but when we shot this, we thought it looked so beautiful, and Jack did such a wonderful job. This is kind of his moment in the film, which I think is one of the best things I've ever shot. And so we just said, you know what? How about instead we just we make it like a mid-credit scene, and it moves so fast that I think it works perfectly fine. Um, this is the crap on a poop on a stick. Jack was like, I'm not gonna say crap, but I'll say poop. Why can't we be friends? They get along throughout. They don't get along in the whole movie, so why can't they be friends? Anyway, guys, we're wrapping up here. Thank you so much for listening to this audio commentary. If you did, I hope there's some fun insights you learned, and thank you for tuning into Robot Entertainment. We'll have more stuff popping up as it pops up. Take care, everyone. Go hug someone.